Hey guys, alright, so this is going to be build update number 3 for the Brand Deception Runemaster. See, we're at level 97 right now, and I think this time we'll just jump right into gameplay and we talk about the build as we're playing. So, about 500 corruption or so right now, and we've turned the build into a walking simulator, sort of. Right, so there is that mana guide amulet that you can use, right, for focus, where you can channel focus and it shoots out lightning blasts, but I didn't really like that too much because it was just too slow. Movement speed is just really slow, and you can see right now about 84% movement speed with no haste buff. And so what we can do is we can use static, and static has pretty much the exact same thing, overload, and we can just run around, and static, it will kind of zap everything. And so we get to keep all of our movement speed, and don't have to, like, you know, channel anything or anything like that, or anything annoying, and we just run around. Now, sometimes the coverage isn't super good, but for the most part it works out pretty good. And every now and then you can kind of just cast your lightning blast if there is, like, a lot of monsters, right? But for the most part we can just kind of run around here and kind of zap everything to death, and use, like, static orb sometimes if we need to for some extra damage. And that's the echo, so pretty quick. Maybe we can go inside one of these little tomb things, because that was, like, really fast. But aside from changing, just swapping the skills around, not really much has actually changed in terms of, like, the build. But I guess we'll cover everything. I've made some changes to my gear, but you know, just minor changes to my gear, getting better items. I've swapped some passives around. Some things that I used to need before, but now I don't really need them anymore, so we'll cover that. And I will make a full, how would you say, build guide next week sometime, but for now we'll just stick to these smaller updates. Okay, so for these guys, we can use static orb to kill them off, because it does, like, quite a bit of damage, or since we are using static, you know, we can actually just go and pop static on these guys, and it's doing like 130,000 damage on that, and, you know, kill them off with that. It is pretty fast to get your static charges back, so I wouldn't really be worried about, like, using your static every now and then for some extra damage, so that's pretty nice. Alright, but that's pretty much it, so let's go kill a boss so we can see what the boss DPS is like. I'll just take all the loot for now and check it later. Alright. So let's jump into 500 corruption boss. And the nice thing about this setup is that for bossing, it's really simple. You don't really have to do any kind of annoying swap. We're going to just put Flame Ward on the bar. And we do have Flame Ward, and even if it's not on our bar, we can still sort of use it in Monoliths with the Astonish node here. So every time you get stunned, it'll cast it automatically. It doesn't have to be on your bar. So when we are using static, then, you know, we can still get our Flame Ward. I guess you could also just replace Static Orb instead of Flame Ward, but anyways. Alright, so let's go and kill the boss off. So he'll die pretty quickly. Static Orb doing insane amounts of damage. Wait, do we hit him? Yeah. Actually have so much movement speed, sometimes I actually just run into these things on accident. Alright, and there's a boss, so pretty easy bossing. Speed is pretty decent, I would say, considering we're playing like a dot build. But yeah, so that is, oh shit, 2 LP, what? Nice. Okay, so that is sort of the build. Let's go and check out the build in action. Let's see which one. Let's go to the, I really like the Ending the Storm Monolith hub, so we'll go over here and explain the build. I mean, this looks amazing, right? Alright, so first of all, let's start off with the skills. What do we need to do to set up the auto I wouldn't call it autobomber-ish, you could say that, but like the walking sim build. So all we need to do is static, and so we actually did have one skill slot that we weren't really using for anything. I was using it for like Frostfall or some other stuff. So basically just get static, and then you go into this lightning node here, get all this stuff here, and then we go into the run speed, or the run thing, so we get more, how would you say, charges when we're running. And maybe we could get haste as well. I don't know. You don't really want to be discharging that much, but and then we just get the max charges. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the setup, and all you have to do is just have it on your bar. Once you hit 80 charges, you'll just start automatically zapping. And one thing to note is that the critical hits with Lightning Blast will give you a charge. And Lightning Blast already has pretty high base crit because we get like 6% here and then the plus 5% normal. And then Lightning Blast itself over here has another 5% base crit. So you do get crits pretty often, so it kind of just refills itself automatically, which is pretty nice. So that is pretty much the setup. Aside from some other things I've changed, is not really that much. Since there isn't that many chains on Lightning Blast, we get 5 hits or so per Lightning Blast when we cast it with static. One thing you can do is you can just cast Static Orb every now and then, and if you do that, you will be getting 2 additional chains for the next 4 Lightning Blasts with this node here. So, I mean, it's okay, but a lot of times I'll just run around, and that's pretty much enough to just kill everything, just run to the objective. If there's a lot of monsters in the way, I'll just self-cast a Lightning Blast or 2, and that should just, like, clear the whole screen. So, overall, this setup is really good, I would say, for mapping for speed farm. It's probably going to be one of the faster, like favor farming setups that you can run on this build. Alright. Teleport hasn't really changed. I noticed that I'm not really having mana problems that much. I think also because Static Orb's mana cost isn't as bad anymore now that they kind of capped it. Anyways, so that's that. That hasn't changed. Flame Ward hasn't really changed either, and Lightning Blast. So I went into some blind chance because none of this stuff was really doing anything. I tried the ward on hit, but it was pretty insignificant, so the next best thing you can get is probably blind. Let's go over some of the gear. So I did get sort of a better scepter, still not good at all, like perfect, but you know, it's good enough. We got our Wall of Nothing set up with the so now you can see my ward is pretty decent, 5.5k ward. Sitting at about 1,000 ward decay threshold and about 520 ward per second, so you know, going pretty good. Ward sustain is pretty nice at the moment, and as for shock, I think I'm at like 800%, yeah, 810% shock chance. It's kind of insane. All right, so I got a 3LP ring, crab ring, but the slam didn't really hit the last one. I was trying to get the ward decay threshold mod, I think it was, but. Anyways, we'll get another one sometime soon. I did get a 2LP Atrophy, so pretty nice there. And then 2LP Orion's Descent, pretty nice. We got some armor on here, and then reduced damage from crits. And then I still need to get a better Ocean Ring, and then probably upgrade the boots and the ring next. But yeah. And then we have a Stormcarve Testament. All right, and then just kind of upgrading my rare items with a little bit better stats, but these are still pretty bad, in a pretty bad state. Still haven't moved over to the rare helmet setup, and I'll probably start working on this as well. Now that there's a lot more of these on the market, we can start to kind of shatter these and get the shard sets, or the set shards. And all my idols are pretty much the same now. We're all just like shock chance idols, right? Okay, and then using like the suffixes to get my resistances and that kind of stuff. Okay, and then the other small ones, I need a lot of poison res, so I'm getting void res, poison res. One here with just some like mana, double mana idol. So yeah, Static Orb right now, we pretty much want to stack mana only like for Static Orb, mainly for damage, because Static Orb gets more damage per mana. But we can also get what do you call it, Endurance Threshold from the Cerulean Runestones. So stacking mana is pretty nice in that sense. So we get Endurance Threshold from our mana, and then that gets converted into Ward Decay Threshold with the Wall of Nothing. All right, so that's how we're getting all of this Ward Decay Threshold. So in the end, I actually really like this mana stacking setup because you get so much mana that, you know, you don't really have mana problems. You also get a lot of ward decay threshold, so your ward generation is really good. And then you get a little bit of damage on your static orb. Okay, so that's pretty much everything, I think. Let's go over the blessings. I wanted to talk a little bit about blessings. So there's two main blessings that you want to farm, pretty much. First one is going to be Ending the Storm, the Shock Chance. So farm this one first until you have a decent roll, and then after that, the Ward Decay Threshold. So these two are probably the most impactful blessings. And then once you do get the Wall of Nothing, then Age of Winter Endurance Threshold. Alright, and then that's pretty much it. Like, oh, actually, no. The all resistances, right? So actually kind of wrong. So you want to farm the all resistances first, pretty much, because when you're planning out your gear, you know, you want to make sure you're taking into account the resistance you're going to be getting from the, you know, the blessing, right? So it's a little bit easier if you first actually do get your resistances blessing, and then I would get the shock chance, and then after that you go for the Black Sun, and finally the endurance threshold. And I think maybe I might try just going double armor. That could be good as well, but we'll see which one we actually end up doing. Alright, so let's go over the passive tree, what's changed. Not really much has changed, actually. The only big changes is that I removed some mana regen that I had over here, and then I put it into some more damage reduction and some more endurance threshold over here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And as far as mana sustain, once you get like, I'd say like 11, 12 mana regen, which is like pretty easy. I don't even have mana regen anywhere. The only mana regen I'm actually getting right now is from this wisdom node, right? So that's pretty much it for mana regen. I was running some mana regen on my belt before, but then now I just don't really need it anymore, so I'm going for a more defensive affix on my belts. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then let's see, anything else has changed? Oh yeah, I got rid of Arcane Momentum because honestly, not even casting that much. And I noticed it's never even at max stacks. I'm like at 1 stack or 2 stacks because I'm not casting, I'm just running around, right? So I put these points basically into the extra mana and mana regen. And then anything changed here? Not really much has changed. I still think it is worth to keep this cast speed. You do want a little bit, you know, and this gives you a little bit of cooldown reduction too for the teleport. So I think this is fine to keep. I mean, the only other thing you would put it into is like extra increased damage or a little bit more mana. So I don't know. I think having a little bit of cast speed is okay. I mean, it's good to have. Alright, but yeah, that'll be it for the video, guys. Next week, we'll make the actual full build guide, you know, with everything, going over everything in depth for you know, anyone who's missed the original build guide. But yeah, that'll be it for the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.